The following telephone recordings were made by Evan Doorbell in the fall of 1976 from the Trafalgar 7 Schuyler 4 panel office in New York City. This narration is being done in July 2008. I'll be speaking in the present tense to give the listener the feeling of going along for the ride as I explore a network of old tie lines set up by the Bell system for a New York-based insurance company 32 years ago. None of this is relevant to today's world. It was the New York Telephone Company, not the insurance company, which was responsible for leaving open the doorway that made this exploration possible. So now let me show you what I found standing at a payphone one day when I dialed 578-4521. The recording I'm playing here is being made from my mother's TR7 panel phone line. Now these sounds are coming from one of the Bell System's crossbar PBXs. The dial tone does time out to a busy signal, which in turn times out to the line idle state, which of course leads to another dial tone, and so the cycle repeats indefinitely, unless of course something is dialed on that dial tone. Now, as I mentioned earlier, New York Telephone tended not to use crossbar PBXs in New York City. So how are we getting this dial tone from an obvious crossbar PBX? Well, it is worth considering that this dial tone may be coming from somewhere other than New York City. And if that's true, we're probably going over a 2600 Hz controlled trunk to some distant place where crossbar PBXs are used. So let me hook up my handy-dandy ARP Odyssey synthesizer and try beeping out a number in bursts of 2600 Hz to see if we can get anything to happen. Far out, we got it to ring an extension. I just now reset the trunk by blowing a longer 2600, and we're back to the crossbar PBX dial tone and busy signal again. Now watch this, I'm going to dial 81. Now this is the same type of dial tone as that crossbar PBX, but as you'll see, this dial tone does not time out. That's because it's coming from another PBX, in this case, a step. Let's try to dial a vacant level.
This is the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company recorded announcement. The number you have reached is not in service at this time. Please be sure you are calling or dialing the right number. If this call is within the home office, please dial extension 1555. If you are calling from outside the home office, there will be no charge for this call. And if you require operator's assistance, please dial 578-1211. This is the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company recorded announcement. The number you have reached is not in service at this time.
By dialing 81 on that distant crossbar PBX, we got a tie line back to the home office in New York City, and we heard a New York PBX dial tone. This is how tie lines typically worked in the 1970s. The company had PBXs and Centrexs all over the country, and many of them had special codes like 81 by which various company locations could be reached. So, when someone out there in crossbar PBX land needed to dial a number at the home office in New York City, they would dial 81, wait for a New York PBX dial tone, and then they'd dial the 4-digit extension number. Now, of course, the home office undoubtedly had tie line codes as well, and considering how this all started, I think at this point it's pretty clear what needs to be tried. Just to review, we got into this whole thing by dialing 578-4521. What's happening here is that Amsterdam Tandem 2 is mistakenly sending a certain range of numbers, the 578 4s, into the home office PBX, when it really should be going to intercept. So instead of giving us this,
what number are you calling, please?
It dialed 452 into the home office PBX, and that happens to be the tie line code from the home office to the distant crossbar PBX. Thus, we're getting this dial tone and busy signal via that tie line from New York. The last digit 1 was ignored just because the dial tone hadn't come on yet when Amsterdam dialed it. So here we are, sitting on a tie line from New York to wherever this PBX, which I'll refer to as 452, is. We can go back to New York City by dialing 81 here, and now, on this New York dial tone, let's try dialing 451. What do you know? A slightly different dial tone, suggesting we've just found another tie line to another PBX. Let's try for a ring. Okay, so here's what I think I know so far. From the home office, 451 goes to a PBX with this dial tone. And it rings like this. I'll be referring to this particular PBX as 451 from now on. Meanwhile, 452 goes to this PBX, which rings like this. On the 452 PBX, 81 goes back to New York. So guess what? We already know enough to try some stacking. Again, we'll be starting off with a dial tone from 452. So let's try dialing 81 for New York, then 452 again, then 81 again, then 451, then just 3 digits to make it ring. If this works, we'll hear a series of dial tones, each one lower in volume than the last because of the long connection that's being built up. And finally, we'll hear the ring of the 451 PBX, sounding a bit more distant than it did earlier. Well, that did exactly what I anticipated. While we're at it, let's try some other tie line codes, beginning with 44 and 45 on that New York dial tone. Here's 81 plus 442, and if I get a dial tone, I'll try to get it to ring. So that's the ring on the 442 PBX. Very unique. This actually doesn't even sound like the Bell system, but it had the same dial tone as so many PBXs do in this network, including the Home Office and the 452 PBX. But not all PBXs have that dial tone. For example, let's dial 81 for New York plus 445. Ooh, it's a Nippon. That dial tone is unmistakable. This is one of those PBXs manufactured by Nippon Electric. These started showing up around 1975 or so. See, it's a Japanese type ring. I want to try some codes that begin with 8 on 445. So let's dial 81 for New York, 445 for the Nippon, and then dial 8. Hey, now that could be the New York dial tone. Let me try 445 again. Yep, here we are again. I guess since this is 1976 and this is being narrated in 2008, I should point out that when you go back and forth between two places, such as dialing 445 for the Nippon and then its code for the Home Office, 8, when you go back and forth twice like that, you're not being redirected the way the internet does. Instead, the call is just being built longer and longer. The phone freak term for doing this is stacking. When you hang up, of course, the whole call does fall down, and when you whistle off with 2600, what usually happens is that the first tie line resets, causing us to get a dial tone from whatever we dialed into initially. In this case, it's the 452 PBX. So when I reset the trunk, hey, now, I wasn't expecting that. There we go, that's the 452 dial tone. What happened initially is that I blew a 2600 that was shorter than I usually do, and the 452 PBX, instead of seeing that as a disconnect, it saw it as a momentary on-hook condition, or a flash. That got sent down the line of that long call we made, and the Nippon PBX took that as a disconnect. So sometimes when we try to disconnect, we're going to end up actually resetting a PBX that's further down the line. And sometimes that can actually be useful because then you don't have to rebuild that first part of the call. Anyway, let's try another code through New York. In this case, 454.
non-working number. For assistance, please dial your attendant. This is a recording. You have reached a non-working number. For assistance, please dial your attendant. This is a recording. You have reached a non-working number.
454 is a number 1 ESS Centrex. I can tell by the type of recording that it is. Number 1 ESSs have certain types of recording machines they use, and that's one of them. Now, at this point in the tape, I was getting something very similar on 453, suggesting that perhaps 453 and 454 are the same. It's for sure that both are number 1 ESS Centrex. Number 1 ESS Centrexes usually use tie line codes beginning with 1. They're usually 3-digit codes. Little PBXs usually use 8 or 81 or 82, codes like that. And as we've seen, the Home Office, which is a step PBX, uses 3-digit codes so far, beginning with 44 and 45. In any case, let's go to the 453 Centrex by dialing 81 and then 453. We'll get that new dial tone. Then let's try dialing 111. If I were going to set up this network, I'd have 111 be the code for the Home Office, and hopefully we'll get a Home Office dial tone doing that. So here's 81, 453, 111. Well, here's a dial tone that's like the Home Office dial tone. Of course, many other PBXs have this too. It's not timing out. Okay, something just timed out. But this reorder tone is not coming from the same switch as that dial tone was. This is probably associated with the link from the 453 ESS Centrex to whatever 111 is, which I suspect is the Home Office. Now, I didn't prove it on the part of the tape that follows, but I did prove it later on. 111 is the way to the Home Office from 453. Now, let's go back to 453 and see if we can call out dialing 9. I want to call something that's not going to complete, of course. I'm dialing 1 plus the number of the charge test that's sitting at Ben's house. Charge tests flash at the beginning of the process, and when you call that on ESS, well, you'll see. Two flashes of answer supervision is enough to make a number 1 ESS cut you off and put on a busy signal. What I just did there was harmless, but the 453 Centrex does let you dial 9, so you could call anything. So whatever I call, I'm going to try not to have it go off hook to put a random long distance call on one of these offices' bills. That's considered rude in the old Phone Freak clan. Anyway, the next thing I did was to make a stacked call from one of my lines to the other. I'll whistle off to go back to the 452 PBX. Okay, 81 from here goes to the main office, and then from there I'll dial 445. Okay, this is the Nippon, and from here 8 goes back to the main office, so I'll dial 8 and then 445 again. That was 8 for the main office again. I've dialed 4, and I'm going to end up dialing 440, which went to another crossbar PBX. You'll barely hear the dial tone. And on that, I'm going to dial 9 for an outside line, plus my other number. You can barely hear this dial tone. Okay, now 9 and my number. That's the outside dial tone for 440. By now, my other line is ringing. But this call is so long we can't even hear it. However, unlike the classic tandem stacking, you can make calls with this that are so long that one end can't hear the other. What I'm going to do is very quickly answer and hang up the line that's ringing so that it stops the ring, but doesn't charge the insurance company for the call. Okay, I've stopped the ring, and now I'm going to capacitively connect that line that has the incoming call to this line. So we'll be listening to both at once. You can hear the 2600. That's the incoming call. I'm going to flash the line a couple of times here. See, we're still hung up, but I went off hook briefly twice. Now let's put the tape recorder on the incoming line by itself. It's still hung up, that's why the 2600 is so loud. From the calling line now I'm going to flash my hook, which makes some fairly loud ticks, but that's my calling line flashing the hook to make loud ticks, but they're not very loud. What I'm going to do next is put the two lines together again and send little pulses of 2600, which will go from the calling end to the called end. See how it's being conveyed all the way down? See, while it's true that one end of the call can barely hear the other, those pulses still get conveyed in the forward direction. So now I'm going to put the recorder on the incoming line by itself. Then from the calling line, I'll flash my hook a few times, barely audible ticks, and then hang up. Hell yeah, there's a stack disconnect for you. And there are many more where that came from. I recorded several hours of this, and that's just the first of many. I'm going to stop this first program here. This project did get shelved for about 14 years. It's now 2022. I wish I had the same voice I had in 2008, but still got a few years on it, I'd say. And hopefully it will not be such a long time for the next program to come out.